like this all started because L'Oreal was spending too much money on different size packages. So I'm gonna leave this real quick and just illustrate that before this and this, there was about 12 different size height packages in in this whole category. And because of that, they were spending a lot more money on these very slight different boxes to ship, just boxes in general, print, what's the word I want to use? Print plates. So what we did is we were able to kind of common denominator it down to a lot. Well, actually that was the common denominator, if you can believe it. There was a lot
So you're
more
basically
to it.
organizing like the dimensions and all the images, the color, like any text that needs to go on there, and you're basically formatting all those things into like a print schedule, a print program. Is that right?
That's right. And all of these packages, the work that goes into every package, you have someone from legal, you have someone from marketing, you have a creative person approving this, and then you also have another set of marketing people doing just copy. And then there's a legal set of people, if I didn't already say that, doing claims and ingredients, because you can't just say renew and revive healthy tone without some lab backing it up, basically. And so my job is really to make sure that when this goes to 2 lines, and this is 1 line, and this is 2 lines, that we've thought about every iteration that could possibly happen so that when these are all on the shelf, at least this band is always at the same spot. And that's branding, that's also being really technical. So my job really straddles being able to be the creative person for the art directors or the stakeholder, whoever is really in charge of this program, and be able to pull it off in this technical way to then hand it off to a printer and then be able to answer all the printer's questions about the color order, what this image is really going to print like. Do I need to send them a physical proof? Is this going to be really deep black, or is it going to be like matte black?
So what I'm hearing, Zach, is that you're kind of like the person, the facilitator between the art person that's more in like theory of like, I want this color and this font and this text and this size, and the actual like, company people that want to make sure that there's a certain uniform size and dimension, and then the one that actually makes sure when it comes out, it looks right on the shelves and the way everybody wants it.
Absolutely. And it is a group effort in every way. Being able to talk with your printer or the person in supply chain who is getting you the die line after all the development you've done to ensure that every box is the right height, but not every box has the exact same cut shape, because these little extra pieces and these little extra pieces actually protect this jar on the inside. I didn't have any design courses in high school. I took, a lot of art classes, a lot of drawing classes. I probably should have took drafting and photography. And when you're in high school and when you're in college, you either go to a generic route when you get to college and they put you through every kind of art class, and then they make you pick your focus that's what happened at SUNY Buffalo. But you could also go to the Art Institute of Philly, New York, whatever, and they would just give you a very specific design course. Yeah, so UX is user experience, and I think UI is like user interface or the layout, the visual layout design of the app, the web. And so there's a lot of ways, a like different avenues you can go, but the design rules are pretty much the same, but the way you accomplish them, that's the technical aspect of either knowing a lot about print or just knowing a lot about, web engineering.
So is this what you expected to do after high school or after college? Like, when did you, I guess, get the vision or know that like this was kind of where you were going to be?
I think the first time I was in a studio, I was in college, like a design studio. I was in college, and I actually was able to see like, wow, this is like a half-made display. And that was really it. That's how I knew I wanted to be in design. I really tried when I came back to the city, to Westchester. I really tried to get just a overall design job, but those were pretty hard to get. So I ended up just working in displays, and I really enjoyed building something from beginning to end, or at least being a part of it. That was like the feeling of success. I just keep going for it. Like when you get to see what you did, like to go in the store and see a whole wall of L'Oreal, even though I'm not going to buy it, it feels really good. And then, you're checking out, did the printer do their job? Because you didn't get to see every finished printed version, but it's out there in the world. And I think that was all I could really want once I left school. So as far as all my packaging career goes, those jobs specifically, it was all, you want to have all your meetings face to face as much as you can, but I've had plenty of clients during those days pre-COVID where everything was done over the phone, and we shared the screen and we said things like, is this 1/4 of an inch every single time? Or when it gets smaller, is it going to be 1/8? And, this is getting a little tight there because of that. And basically we would nitpick the hell out of things. Or if there was not enough time in the day, because art directors go to a lot of meetings, they would ask for my file, they would edit my file. I would know exactly what they changed on my file, because I have this little technique I use where I can look at both at the same time. And then I would change their file and send it back for approval as the routing process. So this was I was just showing like I've taken on big lines and taken on consistency. And this is really just to show how complicated it gets to whoever I'm supposed to impress. This was all designed by me. I didn't have an art director. It's not in the store yet. And then this says we did none of the product. All the product was sent to us. And what we did, this was one of my first jobs out in Chicago, was just listen to them and create the artwork that was going to hold all the product. And I worked with the engineer to make sure that you can pull this concealer out from the shelf, your hand can fit inside of it, and it can still come out while you're holding it, to jam as much product on this gondola as possible. And then once we had fit all the product and jammed it in as much as we could, then we knew how much space we had for graphics. And then we had to work with the visual merchandising team at Makeup Revolution to go through about a dozen iterations before they liked it. And I could say that somewhere in the 4th iteration is where they should have stopped. But here's one of the final versions you should be seeing in the store if you've ventured to in the bottom. Being able to work, this is why you want meetings in person a lot more when you're designing something like this, because we actually had our full own set of this at the office to create it. So we're not just setting it up in the store and saying we know how to do it. We're doing full setups. We're doing this company has a planogram person. So there's, again, a large team involved in this, along with just regular engineers sending out files to either get injection molded, laser cut, or just punched. Let me keep going. So, okay, displays. So this is concept work, like basically a digital sketch. And this was one of the first times I designed a whole concept, made all the art for it. I definitely got some engineering help because it's a whole lot of folded cardboard, but this went out to 300, every Kids Foot Locker store in America. And I got to do the art that went inside. And when I was working at this company, the company that did this, we also would redo Foot Lockers in the middle of the night. If you see these walls versus the new big dark gray walls, we were part of installing some of that. And we would do installs in the middle of the night for like the NBA All-Star game. But this was great because I got to work through every version of this. Making these books to hold shoes was a great merchandising solution. And I made a lot of friends at Foot Locker with this design. And then they started just giving me small things to do for one-off windows. And this was one of my favorites where we made little skyscrapers. And then I've done really big presentations for Camelback to reskin some of their existing displays for REI, and presentations to Greenworks for Costco. And then I didn't design this, but I was given every file for this from another design agency out in Portland for Adidas, and coordinated getting all these back panels made, all the laser cutting made. These metal pieces were in existence. We had to get them on the panels, make sure that all these shoes would fit, laser cut out all this plastic, and send out for 4 or 5 of these neon pieces that were in to be like the Adidas stripes. Make sure that the shirts and pants would at least not be touching the ground, so we folded them twice. And these boxes were existing, but the art inside had to be redone. And then we had to source the floor. So this was a lot of just coordination and project management. So it was really about being able to get on the phone a lot and talk to the neon person. And, in the middle of the day, a kid kicked out one of these lights. So we had to find someone in Houston who could replace this light. And then we found another acrylic person to cover the bottom so the kids would stop kicking it. So that is also a part of the whole design process, right? It's just like keeping it together. And this blue Adidas logo got chipped in shipping, and I went to Walgreens in the middle of the night and found blue nail polish that was close enough to fix this edge right there.
Wow. So thank you so much. I mean, you really took us through a lot of what goes into just packaging, and we saw some things from Revlon and different things you've done. And what I love about what you do, right, is that you take it from the beginning when it's just an idea in someone's head, and until it's like really literally in the store right in front of us, right? And so I think that whole process is fascinating. Interesting to hear you say how much like communication goes in with it, and being able to converse and bring different people into it, and how many different people are involved in the team of making these things come into existence.
I just had a question regarding salary. You guys usually get paid like hourly, or do you just have you get a fixed pay for each job? How do you guys work that as a freelance, or is it more productive when you work for a company?
So being a freelance is really iffy, and it's a pretty tough game in that, you could set yourself up really good to take on like a month of work for a really big chunk of money. But they could run you ragged for months, and that's your only set of money. When I worked at the agency that did just L'Oreal work and some Bath and Body Works work, they paid by hour, but you were guaranteed a whole week's worth of work because everyone at that agency worked 10 hours a day, at least. There were some people who worked even more. And so because the need was there and getting the good people who were that technically savvy, they would just pay you more and more overtime to kind of keep you there. But the job I have now, it's super corporate. I probably do a little bit extra hours, but I'm salary all the way. So I would say, like, I know some people who work, they get the email from the client and they say, this is our budget for this big project, and people choose to pick it or not. And when you're starting out in freelance, you might take a job where they're like, my budget's $100, and you end up spending like 5 hours on it. That might be good for some exposure, but it's not the best long-term solution.
No, that's great. Yeah, because I have students that ask me about that, about the industry, and like, what's the difference between freelance and working? And as a photographer, it's tough to be that in-house photographer because they don't exist anymore, or there's one, so everyone's
right.
a photographer.
I can say that some photographers just keep it rolling. They just have freelance after freelance after freelance, and they kind of have it in with a group of people so that they're kind of rotating jobs. And then they have this group of people talking to each other about how much the Saltines job was, or versus like the beach, whatever job, and so like, then they get that kind of going. And I just had my mentor text me last week asking me how much I would charge for freelance. So like, it's a constant conversation. And, like, if you end up at like a really nice agency, it's more likely you're going to get a salary and you're going to work extra hours. But if you're in that position, it's like you're at like a law firm, not really, but like you're playing with some really big names, right? So you're going to work really hard because that's what you want, right? And there's plenty of designers who show up, they do their 9 to 5, it's whatever, and they go home and some art director fixes it, before it really goes out there. So there's so many levels to it. And I just gravitated towards production because I was really excited to like make it, getting the physical thing and making sure it all folds together was great. Like, I like the printed little fun stuff, and is the plastic gonna fit in the thing? Did we forget the sticker? How's the sticker gonna go on? So it's using a lot of problem solving, and your brain doesn't really turn off, which is the only downside.